do have a top 5, Dallin, and
it's a good day. It's a good day when we got a top 5.
It's a great day. Every day is a good day, Dallin. You only get 365 of these a year. No sense in having a bad one.
So right.
But you know what? So right. The day gets a little bit better when we got a top 5. So we're going to have a top 5 this week. And, Dallin, the NFL season is approaching, and we've been having a lot of quarterback talk. We just tiered our quarterbacks a couple weeks ago.
That we did.
And
by the way, if you didn't catch that or want to rewatch that, you can watch that full video with our segment here on the YouTube channel.
That's right.
At youtube.com/the sports hour, guys. So go there. You can check out full segments of the show after we record if you miss anything.
Absolutely. Make sure to go check that out, guys. But Dallin, the greatest quarterback of all time conversation is something that's always going to happen. It's never going to go away. It's always going to be speculative. Eventually, someone's going to challenge Tom Brady, right? There's going to be someone eventually. We may not be around to see him, but, someone will be there eventually. But I think what's interesting is that there's a lot of quarterbacks that go flying under the radar that we don't talk about that might have been the best for the decade. Like their given era. Mm-hmm. And, everyone wants to classify GOAT. A lot of people want to classify GOATs by era. So, Dallin, on this week's edition of Mitch-Mo's Top 5 List of the Week, we're going to start in the 1960s and get groovy, baby, because we are going with the greatest quarterbacks of the 1960s.
Okay.
And we're going to move our way through the decades as we get close to the NFL season, but we're going to start in the 60s. And it's going to be groovy, baby. Groovy, baby.
A little decade rankings of the quarterbacks. I like this. I like this. This is good because, and I think specifically with the NFL and the way the game evolved, especially the quarterback position, this is kind of the right way to look at it is in eras because guys weren't asked to pass the same way, in 10, 20-year spans, things change so quickly that it's hard to compare these guys, in all these different eras. So I love that you're doing this.
I will say, I could sit, exactly. And I could sit here and say, Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time. My great-grandfather would probably sit there and say, Slinging Sammy Baugh was the greatest quarterback of all time. It's completely different. So, so we're going to start in the 1960s, Dallin. Some honorable mentions really quick. Don Meredith of the Dallas Cowboys. A 47-32 quarterback record. 135 touchdowns, 111 interceptions during his time during the 60s. Also a 3-time Pro Bowler. Also want to throw out a name, though, that I think that a lot of people won't know is Roman Gabriel of the Los Angeles Rams. A 51-24 record, 109 touchdowns, 75 interceptions, a 1-time MVP and a 3-time Pro Bowler and a 1-time All-Pro during the 60s. A very underrated and forgotten quarterback, but just misses the top 5 for me. I do love Roman Gabriel, but he's going to miss the top 5 for me because the 60s, quite honestly, were stacked. So let's get right into it, Dallin. Number 5 on the list, we're going to go with Sonny Jurgensen of the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Redskins. A losing record as a quarterback, 49-60, but the guy was an absolute slinger. 207 touchdowns, 154 interceptions, and 82.4 quarterback rating, over 26,000 yards passing, 5-time Pro Bowler, and then 1-time All-Pro. He was known for having the beer gut a little bit. He was kind of that first, kind of bigger, heavier set quarterback type, kind of a pure pocket guy, but had weird athleticism where he can get outside of the pocket and do something, make something happen. Also a trick thrower too. We saw on multiple occasions during his career him complete a pass behind his back. Ooh. So
Mahomes before Mahomes, huh?
Mahomes before Mahomes was Sonny Jurgensen.
Well, it kind of sounds like Big Ben to me. You were mentioning a big guy with the sneaky,
and he was,
and the sneaky athletic. Whereas Ben, it's he was so big, but then it was how did he get out of that tackle and boom, he make a move and. Yeah, I love that.
That's perfect. That's the perfect comp. Is he's Big Ben of the 60s. That's exactly it. So Sonny Jurgensen getting the nod at number 5 on the list. By the way, I love the fact that all these quarterbacks are wearing the 2-bar or 1-bar helmets.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Awesome look.
Yeah,
An
back
awesome
when you
look.
didn't need teeth, you know.
Exactly, right?
Knock those suckers out.
Exactly. Number 4 on the list, I'm going with Fran Tarkenton. Fran Tarkenton of the Minnesota Vikings and the New York Giants. And again, a quarterback with a losing record, 47-68, 186 touchdowns, 134 interceptions, 81 quarterback rating. But here's the kicker: 2,672 rushing yards and 20 touchdowns in the 60s. He was the original scrambler.
Yep.
This guy was, he kind of invented the scrambling quarterback prototype. A much better arm than a lot of people will remember him for. Legacy-wise, you could think that, well, he doesn't have the wins, he doesn't have the Super Bowl, he doesn't have this, have that, but he made the reputation of the scrambling quarterback what it is today and how much that athleticism is valued. So he has the numbers, he has the legacy of creating a prototype. And so that's why he gets number 4 on my list.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great entry. Yeah, I mean, when you think of Fran Tarkenton, who preceded the Steve Youngs, who preceded the Michael Vicks and all, and obviously what we know today at that position, it's like, yeah, that's where the roots go back to is Fran Tarkenton. Love that.
Love it. Yeah. Number 3 on the list, I'm going to go with Bart Starr. Bart Starr, number 3 on the list. The win-loss record is impressive. 81-32. Right. Wow. He was on those Packers teams that won a ton under Vince Lombardi. Completed 59% of his passes, 125 touchdowns, 90 interceptions, just over 19,000 yards passing, and an 87.7 quarterback rating. 5-time NFL champion, 2-time Super Bowl champion, 2-time Super Bowl MVP, 1-time MVP, 4-time Pro Bowler. Sounds like he should be number 1, right?
Yeah, I have a good case,
but you have to take into account of what everything else was going on around him. Mm-hmm. And he had the incredible backfield led by Paul Hornung. You had the great defense led by Ray Nitschke. You had one of the greatest coaches of all time, Vince Lombardi. The Lombardi Trophy's namesake was on the sideline during that time. And you know what? The Packers just had great teams around Bart Starr, and Bart Starr was the perfect quarterback for that team, and succeeded in it. So I'm going to put him number 3 on the list.
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, you'll justify it depending on who you put 1 and 2, right? So I guess we got to wait to see who you got up at the top.
I will. Yeah, I think I will. Maybe. We'll see. Number 2 on the list, I have Lenny Dawson. Rest in peace. Just recently passed away this last year. 66-32 career record. Just over 19,000 yards passing, 183 touchdowns, 120 interceptions, 87.2 quarterback rating. 1-time Super Bowl champion, 1-time Super Bowl MVP, 6-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro. Probably the most prolific passer of the era behind Sonny Jurgensen when you look at the touchdown numbers, right? He was right up there with him as one of the most prolific passers. Ran that Hank Stram offense, keep matriculating the ball down the field. There's that famous clip from NFL films. Lenny Dawson was just other than the guy at number 1 on the list, unmatched. And he was the cool quarterback, man. He had swag. He was smoking cigarettes on the sideline, drinking a beer on the sideline. He was cool, old school cool on the sideline was Lenny Dawson. Put him number 2 on my list.
Okay. I like it. Well, there better be a good name at number 1, huh?
Well, number 1 is, I think, an easy one for me, and that's Johnny Unitas. 76 and 39 as a quarterback, 55% completion rating, over 26,000 yards passing, 182 touchdowns, 165 interceptions, 79 rating, 2-time MVP, 7-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro. it just doesn't get any better than Johnny Unitas. This guy was the prototypical. He created the prototype of the quarterback. And when you have the success that he did under center, it's hard to not put him at number one. This was also a guy too that wasn't playing football really before that. Before the 60s even started, he was a construction worker. He was deemed not good enough. Went to the Pittsburgh Steelers, got a tryout, made the Steelers, got traded over to the Colts, and became Johnny U with the Baltimore Colts. So Johnny Unitas is not only one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time in my book, but definitely the greatest quarterback of the 60s.
Yeah, I agree with you at number one. I think it should be Johnny Unitas. It's no surprise, Mitch, you did select him in our top 5 draft from a couple months back of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. He did make your 5. So again,
I love Johnny Unitas.
No surprise that he's at the top, but I think you're right. Absolutely. He is the most iconic of any of those names that you have already mentioned. And there are some very iconic names on that list, but Johnny Unitas is the best of them all. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I know that there's one omission on this list. And I'm going to make the case for it right now. There's a reason Joe Namath was not even an honorable mention.
Okay, I was gonna ask about that because I was sitting here thinking I think I didn't hear that name, but yeah, let's hear it.
It's because Joe Namath is the most overrated quarterback of all time. Not even close.
Oh, Mitch, I agree with you. I love that. I really do. He had cool saying.
He had one moment.
Super Bowl.
He had one moment.
Flacco. He's just Joe Flacco. Tell me I'm wrong. He's just Joe Flacco. He had like one good year, makes a run, and now we're like, I don't know. It
wasn't even a good year, though. He had one moment. He sold his soul to the devil for a Super Bowl win, guaranteed the Super Bowl win, and that was it. That was it. The guy wasn't he was average at best.
And the only reason why he's even as iconic as he is now is because the Jets haven't done shit since. They've been to the Super Bowl since. It's like that's the last good thing that happened in that franchise's history. So yeah,
well, that's what
immortalized.
That's like in the I know across NFL circles, like that's thought of as like a curse. The Joe Namath curse.
Yeah,
he sold his soul to the devil for them to win as an NFL champion, Super Bowl, and then basically that was it. Like Joe got his title, but like screw the Jets. They're cursed now. It's a thing.
Oh man, yeah, I love it. All righty, Mitch. Let's. How about you read back your top 5 for the folks?
Yeah. So number 5 on the list is Sonny Jurgensen. Number 4, Fran Tarkenton. Number 3, Bart Starr. Number 2, Lenny Dawson. Number 1, Johnny Unitas.
Love it. All righty. Mitch-Mo's top 5 list of the week. So I guess we should expect next time we come up the 70s.
The
best
70s
quarterbacks of the 70s.
That's right.
I'm excited for this little summer series. Last year, if you remember, if you were listening to the podcast last summer, Mitch was gifting us with your top 5 of each NFL position of all time, right? Your top 5. I remember the kickers and punter list. We had all kinds of different positions. I like where we're going on this little summer series of the best quarterbacks by decade. You'll love to see it.
All right. Well, yeah, I'm excited to do it. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a ton of fun.
For sure.